The controversial yet turbulent career of Ilnur Zakarin is a fascinating story for cycling fans. He is a rider who could always be found near the head of the race throughout Grand Tours of the late 2010s, with the peak of his palmarès being a podium finish at the 2017 Vuelta a España alongside 3 Grand Tour stage victories. So now, as the Russian bows out unexpectedly from the sport, we chart the rise and fall of Ilnur Zakarin. Born in Nabrzhenie Chelny in Tatarstan, Russia in 1989, Ilnur Zakarin was born into a Tatarstani Muslim family of agricultural workers. After a school field trip to a local cycling club, Ilnur was inspired to start cycling himself, even after spending much time of his youth boxing, which is a popular sport for Tatarstani people. Zakarin grew up watching Denis Menchov at the top, but soon his own time would come. In 2007, Zakarin won the title of Junior European Champion after having secured the victory in the Bulgarian capital Sofia, pipping Michal Kwiatkowski to gold. However, in 2009, Zakarin would find himself in deep trouble after a positive drug test emerged. Ilnur was subsequently suspended for 2 years after testing positive for the forbidden anabolic methendione. The product introduced into the 1960s was very popular with bodybuilders for building up body mass. It had been banned in the United States, but it was still readily available in Russia, even though the World Anti-Doping Agency did not see it fit for racing. When asked about this affair 6 years later, Zakarin clarified that he was young and stupid, and that he had changed since. However, this stupid decision would put Zakarin in a difficult position for the next years. Once Zakarin came back to racing in 2011, he did not find the same results as his teenage years. Katusha's development team Itera still believed in him and signed the Russian in 2012, before signing for Rus Velo for 2013. Zakarin would sign for Katusha's senior team in 2015, and in that year, the surprise breakthrough arrived. At the 2015 Tour de Romandie, Zakarin would make the most poignant victory of his career. He began the race as an unknown. However, despite pressure from his teammate and leader, Szymon Spilak, Zakarin shone on the Swiss stage race. Without winning a single stage of the race, Zakarin rode wisely to keep himself in contention for the GC. His day arrived on the penultimate stage as he finished in second place behind Thibaut Pinot to take the yellow jersey into the final day's time trial. Even though the Russian had to change bike during the time trial, Zakarin conserved his yellow jersey after fending off the incoming forces of Szymon Spilak and Chris Froome. With the victory in Romandie, Zakarin emerged as an enigmatic GC talent who was making his mark on the sport. 1 week later, Ilnur Zakarin would take the journey over to the Ligurian coastline to begin the 2015 Giro d'Italia. He came in as the underdog, but an attritional race would catch Zakarin unlucky in his first Grand Tour as he fell off the GC pace of Contador and Aru. Instead, Zakarin hunted down a stage win, and that would come into fruition at Imola on stage 11 after having attacked away from Carlos Betancourt and Franco Pelizzotti. After the Giro, however, Zakarin would continue to capture top 10s in stage races, but the best was yet to come. In 2016, Zakarin planned his season like a real Grand Tour contender, targeting week-long stage races before clashing with the Galacticos at the Giro d'Italia. First stop would be the race to the sun, Paris-Nice. On the Madone climb, Zakarin would prove his strength once again by taking the 6th stage ahead of Geraint Thomas and Alberto Contador. After a solid race overall, Zakarin would finish in 4th place at Paris-Nice. With another pair of World Tour top 10s at Catalonia and Romandie, Zakarin went into the 2016 Giro d'Italia as a key favourite for Pink. After a strong result at the first mountain stage to Roccorosa, Zakarin flew into 3rd place in the Pink jersey standings. However, a chaotic time trial on stage 9 would take Zakarin outside of the top 10. However, Ilnur would build up momentum again to climb into the top 5 in the final week of racing. However, disaster struck on the dramatic stage 19 through the Italian and French Alps as we saw Zakarin ride off the road on the descent. This crash did not look good, and we feared for the worst.
Причем падает серьезно. Кто Ильнур? Ильнур или эстонец? Да, это Ильнур.
However, the injuries would appear to be less serious than we imagined. Just a broken collarbone after inspection, although his pink jersey dream was snatched away from him. Instead, Zakarin focused on healing up and preparing for La Grande Boucle instead. Of course, after a crash like that, we had no idea where Zakarin would go into the Tour de France. He pulled back in the first week, avoiding the GC battle, instead losing time to allow himself to chase a second Grand Tour stage victory. This day would come on stage 16 to Fino Emonson in Switzerland, incidentally.
C'est le seul rescapé de l'échappée du jour. Victoire d'Ilnur Zakarin, ici au barrage d'Emosson.
After attacking a strong breakaway, the Russian rocked and rolled in front to take an impressive stage win, just 2 months after crashing out of the Giro d'Italia. So, mission complete for the Russian, who always likes to leave his mark on a Grand Tour. Now known as one of cycling's toughest fighters, 2017 proposed the Giro revenge. After a strong preparation into the race, Zakarin showed his cards early at the 2017 Giro d'Italia, with a ferocious second place on Mount Etna. As the race progressed, Zakarin emerged as a key figure in the Giro's narrative, especially after the race-changing incident on the way to Bormio.
I needed to shit. That's it.
Remaining as one of the key contenders in one of the most fascinating and dramatic Grand Tours in recent memory, Zakarin weaved his way into the battle for pink, around 1 minute away from the coveted Maglia Rosa. Zakarin wouldn't be alone in the fight for pink. The list of contenders was fierce, as there was only 1 minute and 30 seconds between the top 6 riders coming into the final TT. Entering Milan in 5th place, Zakarin achieved his highest finish at a Grand Tour, just 1 minute and 50 seconds behind the race winner, Tom de Milan. However, Zakarin knew that he could get closer to the Grand Tour dream. After winning the Russian Time Trial Championships, Zakarin entered the Vuelta a España in a strong position. The 2017 Vuelta a España boasted a strong start list. A clash between Froome, Quintana, Contador, Nibali and Aru was expected. However, Zakarin had different ideas. After a slow start to the GC competition, Zakarin warmed up in the second week, with top 10s to his name. He climbed into the top 5 once again as well. Despite total Team Sky domination, Zakarin held on and found himself in 4th position coming into the final mountain stage of the race, up to the Angliru. Stage 20's iconic stage saw a fairy tale end to the career of Alberto Contador, but also a tight podium fight between Zakarin, Contador and Kelderman, who were all fighting for the bronze medal. Zakarin followed the moves, stayed with the red jersey, and rode confidently into the 3rd position. After years of fighting, Zakarin would end the Vuelta in 3rd place, becoming the first Russian to podium at the Vuelta a España since 2007. 2018 would be a new frontier for Zakarin. After finishing on the podium at the Vuelta, there was more pressure for Tour de France success. After a less successful run into the Tour de France with just a 10th place in Dauphiné to write home about, Zakarin wasn't looking as strong as he may have expected. Starting the Tour de France alongside sprinter Marcel Kittel as his teammate, Zakarin would find it difficult to have full team support during a race dominated by Team Sky and Lotto NL. Zakarin failed to crack the top 10 at all in the Tour de France until the final week, when he dived into the top 10 after a strong performance to the Col du Portet and the individual time trial into Espelette. All in all, Zakarin's second Tour de France would warrant him just a 9th place overall. With the frustration of the Tour de France, Zakarin entered the 2018 Vuelta a España. However, the Vuelta would not be as fruitful as the previous year, as Ilnur finished in 20th place overall. Still with his Katusha squad, which in fact announced its folding at the end of 2019, Zakarin aimed for a Tour de France Giro double. His run-up, like previous years, saw him sail into the top 10 at the traditional World Tour stage races, but Zakarin's 2019 highlight would soon come at the Giro d'Italia. After a strange opening 10 stages, Zakarin was lurking just outside of the top 10 coming into stage 13's enthralling stage to Cerresola Reale. As Roglic and Nibali looked at each other, Zakarin and Nieva went out for victory. With Zakarin looking like the strongest rider, he dropped the Basque man to take the stage win. With this victory, Zakarin jumped into the 3rd place in the GC, behind the 2 Slovenians Jan Polans and Primož Roglic. The ball would soon be out of Zakarin's court, however, as he dropped away and lost 7 minutes the next day to stage winner and Giro champion Richard Carapaz. All in all, Zakarin went on to secure a 10th place at the Giro d'Italia, making this his last top 10. After the Giro came the Tour de France. His Katusha team looked weak, however. They in fact finished last in the team classification, and Zakarin's highest stage finish was a 17th place at Val d'Ans. However, with the demise of Katusha, the Russian cycling project, and a semi-merger with Israel Startup Nation on the cards, the Muslim rider Zakarin saw his future elsewhere. This place would be the Polish CCC team. However, would this change of environment be a blessing or a curse? Now as their general classification leader, the future looked bright for Ilnur, especially after a 7th place overall at the COVID-tainted UAE Tour. However, with the next 6 months in lockdown, Zakarin re-emerged from the COVID break at the Tour of Poland, where he finished a lackluster 32nd. On the start lane for the 2020 Tour de France, Ilnur Zakarin failed to follow the pace of the Slovenians Pogačar and Roglič. Instead, he searched out for breakaway victories, crescendoing in this moment. With this now emblematic descent into Ludonvielle on stage 8 of the Tour de France, we saw glimpses of Zakarin's downfall. He didn't finish that year's Tour de France, in fact, and opted to go to the Giro d'Italia. However, the Corsa Rosa only gave Zakarin a 22nd place overall. Zakarin also accepted a contract with the Russian-Italian Gazprom squad for 2021, meaning that he would move off of the World Tour level, the highest echelon of professional cycling. 2021 brought a flurry of mid-table results, with an 11th place at the Tour of Slovenia marking the season's highlight. After this disappointing string of results, at the age of 32 he decided that he would do one more farewell season before retirement. However, the 2022 season did not last as long for Zakarin for a number of reasons. Firstly, he pulled out of his only stage race of the year, the Tour of Valencia. More importantly, however, Zakarin's Gazprom team was subject to sanctions imposed by the UCI following the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. This meant that Gazprom were refused entry from racing under the UCI calendar, and furthermore, Russian racing on Russian territory would be seized, and Russian riders would have to ride under a neutral flag. This was not the curtain call Zakarin would have hoped for. Now, riding as a rider without a contract, the end looks to be confirmed for Ilnur Zakarin. But this now means he can return home to his family in Cyprus and benefit from an early exit from the sport. So what happened to Zakarin? Well, I think he just had a short shelf life. With his unique return to the sport, he couldn't profit from a great emergence in his youth like Aru, Pogačar or Quintana, for instance. He missed years of experience on the World Tour level due to a troublesome history with doping and a strong affiliation to the Russian circuit. Furthermore, in his style of racing, Zakarin was consistent and strong in certain disciplines, but he couldn't master a single discipline. This may have been tricky in the era of Team Sky domination when Froome would dominate the mountains and the time trials. However, following the COVID break in 2020, Zakarin never looked like the same rider. Maybe this break in racing messed with his rhythm now that his typical build-up races were either rescheduled or cancelled. This seemed to be the case for many giants of the 2010s. With this, Zakarin couldn't justify a World Tour contract, and he fell into the second tour of cycling with Gazprom. There are many questions about this rider, as we all wonder what the f*** happened to Ilnur Zakarin. Well, Zakarin will be remembered as a Grand Tour wildcard, a man who could pinch a stage win but also ride into the top 10. But his riding style will be a staple in my memories of Zakarin. So don't forget to comment down below what your memories are. I know certainly that Giro stage win with the open jersey is a bold choice for many. Nevertheless, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We have already covered Warren Barguil and Fabio Aru in our What the Fuck Happened To series. And we're not all about nostalgia. No, we will be covering the classics coming up, including Amstel Gold and Paris-Roubaix. So stay tuned for that. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you around.